how do things fit together so well in nature? There are so many different animals living in so many different places. Underwater, in the warm trees of a jungle, on the hot sands of a desert. But how does each animal manage to have the tools needed to live in its particular place? It's because of something we call adaptation. An adaptation is a change in an animal group over a very long time, which makes animals better able to survive in the places where they live. Let's take a look at an example. The brown grizzly bear and the white polar bear actually came from the same brown-colored bears. The polar bear developed adaptations over a long time that helped it survive in the very cold environment in which it lives. One such adaptation started out as differences in the color of individual bears. Sometimes a darker brown bear was born, and sometimes a lighter brown bear was born. In the white Arctic world of ice and snow, lighter brown bears were harder to see. They could sneak up and catch animals better. They could get more food than darker bears. So these lighter colored bears survived more often than the darker coated bears in the white Arctic. The lighter brown bears lived longer. They had babies with fur that looked like the light brown parents. Gradually, the fur of these bears got lighter and lighter over the generations, until polar bears ended up with the white coats we see today. These helpful changes kept being passed on to new generations. It made the species, or group, known as polar bears, the most successful bears in their icy environment. In other words, they were the best suited for survival. Adaptations often take hundreds or thousands of years to happen. Adaptations are not changes that the animals choose to have. Changes happen by chance in all groups of animals. These changes can help the animals survive. There are many different types of adaptations, but every successful adaptation has one thing in common. It helps the animal in its environment, the place an animal lives. In fact, if you want to understand animal adaptations, you first have to understand environment. Every animal lives somewhere, and each place an animal lives has challenges. Some places are cold, some are wet, and some are hot and dry. An animal must have the right body shape and the right features to live in its environment. There are a number of different adaptations animals have. Some are for getting and eating food. Some are for defending themselves. And some are for caring for their young. They also have adaptations that help them adjust to different temperatures or climates. And they have adaptations that help them move within their environment. Let's take a look at these one at a time. Everybody likes to eat, right? Eating provides the body with energy. All living things must have food to survive. In the animal world, there are almost as many adaptations for getting and eating food as there are kinds of animals. Some animals have very sharp teeth for cutting and tearing meat. Big cats, like lions, not only have big sharp teeth, but also sharp claws to help them catch the animals they eat. Sharks are meat eaters too. Of course, they don't have big sharp claws, but many of them have big sharp teeth. Sharks have many rows of backup teeth behind the front row. Another tooth will move forward to fill any space when a tooth is lost. Sharks replace teeth throughout their lives. Some animals are adapted to eat only plants. These animals have lips and front teeth to gather up the food, and their back teeth tend to be flatter for grinding. Giraffes have the adaptation of lips and grinding teeth, but they also have a very specialized adaptation that helps them get the food they need. As giraffes love to eat the tender new branches and leaves that are usually very high up in trees, a long neck is a must. But scientists think that giraffes came from animals with short necks. Over a very long time, possibly millions of years, some of these animals developed longer necks in order to reach the food. The giraffe-like animals with shorter necks eventually died out, as the longer-necked animals were the best adapted to survive because they could reach those tall branches. Long necks suit the giraffes very well, but elephants developed a different kind of adaptation for eating. Do you know what that is? Of course, the wonderful trunk. The trunk is a very useful thing to an elephant. Not only for eating, but also drinking, and even bathing. An elephant's trunk is as useful to it as your hands are to you. The trunk probably developed over a long time from elephant-like animals that had shorter, trunk-like noses. Wading birds, like this egret, have long beaks for a different reason. They spend a lot of time looking for food in shallow water, and their long beaks help them do that. You've seen different kinds of adaptations for getting food, but there are many others. Let's take a look at another type of adaptation. In nature, animals are usually hunted by other animals. The hunters are called predators. The animals that are hunted are called prey. To survive, an animal must have some way to avoid becoming the prey of another animal. In this case, the porcupine successfully escaped becoming the prey of the bear. The adaptation of the porcupine's sharp quills protected it. Now this bear is thinking about getting the quills out of its nose and not about finding dinner. The fish known as the puffer fish swallows water or air when attacked. It quickly swells into a prickly ball that's almost impossible to grasp. You wouldn't grab it, would you? Impalas have an adaptation called prunking. The animal repeatedly leaps straight up into the air. This can confuse a predator long enough for the impala to escape. Have you ever heard of camouflage? This is protective coloring where an animal blends in with its environment so that it is hard to see. This is a very important defensive adaptation for a number of animals. It protects them from predators or animals that might want to eat them. This tomato caterpillar is the same color as the plant it is eating. This makes it very difficult for a predator to tell the difference between the caterpillar and the leaf. Chameleons can actually change their color to match their environment. Here, a chameleon's skin is brown to match the bark it is on. And here, the same chameleon has turned green to match the green leaves. But there are defensive adaptations that are even more unusual than camouflage.
The Madagascan cockroach is a large wingless member of the cockroach family, native to the island of Madagascar off the eastern coast of Africa. The Madagascan cockroach has a very unusual defensive adaptation, one that you have to hear to believe. Can you hear that? That's the unmistakable hiss of the Madagascan cockroach. So what makes this fellow let out such a sound? Today we're going to find out what can cause this species to hiss. For this experiment, we're going to need a sponge, a kitchen baster, and 2 terrariums. Of course, you'll also need 3 to 4 Madagascan cockroaches, which you can get through a biological supply company. You'll also want to fill both terrariums with leaves and twigs, along with diced fruits and vegetables for the cockroaches to munch on. To begin, separate one roach from the others in one of the 2 terrariums. Using the kitchen baster, pump a puff of air onto the roach. Record how it reacts. Does it hiss? If so, how long did it take to hiss? Now let's try picking up the roach. Don't worry, these cockroaches are harmless creatures and won't bite. Again, record how it reacts. Now let's place the roach into the second terrarium with the others. Again, pick up the roach. You should notice that the cockroach hisses under each circumstance as a means of defense. The hissing of the cockroach is intended to prevent possible enemies from making a snack out of these critters. When there's more than one roach, the group will often hiss together to make a louder noise, which is more frightening to their enemies. So how exactly does the Madagascan cockroach produce this hissing sound? The hiss is generated as the cockroach forces air out of small breathing pores on the outside of its body. It may not be music to our ears, but for the cockroach, hissing is a defensive adaptation that helps ensure their safety under different circumstances.
Quills, puffing up, plunking, camouflage, and hissing. These are just a few adaptations for defense. Let's look at another kind of adaptation, how animals care for their young. There are a great variety of ways the young are cared for in the animal kingdom. For many animals, protection of the young is very important. The young must be able to grow up and have their own babies for the species to continue. For example, the female scorpion carries her young on her back until they are big enough to be on their own. Some animals take years to grow up before they're ready to leave their parents. Others do it in a matter of a few days or weeks. Some have to take care of themselves right away. Most fish pay no attention to their young. But this fish, called a mouth breeder, is an exception. The mouth breeder gathers its babies into its mouth when danger is near. It holds them there until it is safe to let them out again. Mammals are animals that are adapted to feed their young with milk from the mother's body. These coyote cubs will nurse for about 5 to 6 weeks. The mother will gradually stop them from drinking her milk and teach them how to eat meat. These are just a couple of examples of childcare in the animal world. Of course, there are many other types of adaptations that help animals survive. Some places are very cold, and some places are very hot. These extreme temperatures require special adaptations. Sea otters spend most of their time in the cold water. They have thick, waterproof fur that keeps them warm and prevents the water from ever reaching their skin. On the other hand, walruses have a thick layer of fat called blubber that protects them from the cold water. Living in the desert presents a whole new set of problems for survival and requires different adaptations. Here, the sun beats down all day and the air is hot and dry. Staying cool and finding enough water and food are the main problems for desert animals. Many reptiles live in the desert. They are called cold-blooded animals because they can't keep their own bodies warm or cool. They take on the temperature of the environment around them. Reptiles are not adapted to live in cold environments. They can make no heat in their bodies. But where it's hot during the day, like in the desert, reptiles can use the heat to warm up or hide from it in holes to cool off. That's not to say that the desert can't get cold. At night, when the sun goes down, temperatures often get a bit chilly for reptiles. But don't worry, while reptiles are very active during the warm day, on cold nights, they stay in their shelters to conserve body heat. One adaptation among desert animals is having large ears. These large ears let the animal lose heat to keep its body cool enough. African elephants have the largest ears of any animal, which they flap to cool down their entire bodies. But how did the adaptation of big ears develop? Present-day elephants developed over millions of years from an animal about the size of a pig. Notice the size of the ears. As temperatures warmed up, the adaptation of large ears to keep elephants cool became a major factor in the survival of the species. The elephants with large ears survived the best, and they passed that trait on to their offspring. Remember that having big ears was not something the elephants chose to do. There are also adaptations that help animals move. These may be adaptations to help them fly, swim, or walk. Most birds can fly because they have special adaptations. They have powerful muscles, feathers, wings, and very light bodies. Some creatures get around by crawling or sliding without legs. Look at a snake. It is adapted to move its body around by using very powerful muscles in its belly. This is a sidewinder rattlesnake that actually moves sideways. Fish, of course, live in the water, so they have special adaptations for that. They have fins and tails for movement. Most fish swim by moving their muscular tails from side to side. Just like the other types of adaptations you've seen, there are many more adaptations that animals have besides those for climate and movement.
If you wanted to observe unusual animal adaptations, where might you go? How about to a zoo? A zoo would be the perfect place to go because a zoo has so many interesting animals with so many special adaptations, all in one place. Let's take a trip to the Santa Ana Zoo and see what adaptations we can turn up.
I'm Kent Yamaguchi. I'm the Curator of Education for the Santa Ana Zoo. Some of the most interesting eating adaptations occur with the birds because the birds have very specialized bills, the way that they get their food. Here at the zoo we have the spoonbills with the big flat bill to be able to hunt through the mud to find things. Then we have the scarlet ibis with a big, long, curving bill that probes down into the mud to be able to find things really deep. We have toucans here, fruit eaters. The toucans have that really long beak that's able to reach out there, sort of like a pair of tongs or chopsticks, to be able to reach the fruit at the ends of the branches. So when you talk about eating adaptations, some of the best eating adaptations are on the birds, just because there's so many different ways that they get their food and so many different foods that they eat.
Besides eating adaptations, there are also some very interesting defensive adaptations on display at the zoo.
Well, one of the best is exhibited by the guanaco, which is a relative of the llama. And the llama is related to a camel, and camels spit. And the guanaco is no exception. When it gets upset, it will spit. And it's not just like a gentle spitting, it's a spitting up everything I have in my throat kind of spit.
Gee, Kent, thank you for sharing that with us. What do you say we look at something a little more pleasant?
Animals need very special adaptations for raising their children, and one of the most interesting is in the tamarins. The tamarins are a small monkey. They could fit in your hand, but they, being so small, the mom has two very large babies. They almost always have twins. And once the babies are born, Dad jumps in and takes care of them. And the babies will travel around on Dad's back. Dad will protect them. And the younger brothers and sisters also get someone to play with. So it's a whole family thing. So that's a very interesting adaptation for raising the children.
Birds with specialized bills for eating, guanacos spitting for defense, and whole families of tamarins involved in caring for babies. These are some very interesting animal adaptations. And they're just a few of many you can see at the Santa Ana Zoo.
So far, the animals we've looked at have provided us with examples of successful adaptations. But when animals can't adapt to changes in their environments, they don't have many options. They can only move away or die. The most famous case of animals not adapting to changing conditions is that of the dinosaurs. They were the largest animals to ever walk on Earth. They lived for millions of years, but then they all died out. What do you think happened? Well, we're not exactly sure, but many scientists think that the weather suddenly became extremely cold. The dinosaurs could not adapt to this freezing cold climate. Their environment changed very quickly, but the dinosaurs couldn't change with it. Adaptations take a very long time to develop. They couldn't move away because the whole planet was cold, and so they all died. When a species of animal dies out completely, it's called extinction. We've looked at many kinds of adaptations among animals. Most of the animals alive today are very well adapted to their environments. And the best adapted, the fittest of them, will survive. Can you remember the kinds of adaptations we've looked at? Animals have adaptations for getting and eating food, for defending themselves, and for caring for their young. They also have adaptations that help them adjust to different temperatures or climates. And they have adaptations that help them move within their environment. As you have seen, there are all kinds of animal adaptations. That's because a lot of things have to come together for animals to survive in their environments. And nature does it so well. Pretty amazing, isn't it? It's at least as amazing as the fact that you're starting to know all about animal adaptations.